Christmas when I was about 5. We were camping out in the bush. I'd been on several trips by then and felt keen on all the festivities. I considered myself a veteran of the outback. Dad let me start my own small fire, roast my own food, even pick my own bedtime. These camping trips were very special memories for all of us. We grew into ourselves without the bustle of the cityscape back home. For those who don't know, the bush is some of the harshest, most isolated terrain in the world. It's unforgiving backcountry, arid, and undeveloped scrubland. It's hot, waterless, and everything is prepared to kill you, even the plants and the prey. We didn't worry about that, though. Our parents brokered the camping, so we never dealt with anything dangerous. They weren't survival experts, but they knew the ins and the outs of being isolated. Very few trips ever resulted in mishaps or any injuries. There were 9 kids in total in our campsite. We weren't allowed to wander through the bush. Parents would give us a walkie-talkie to tell us when to come back to camp. We never wandered far, but this was definitely my favorite part of the entire trip. It felt like we were part of a special operations team. We're on some kind of mission through the Badlands. Others would gather the rest of our tools. Hand shovels, compasses, a small tarp for cover. We weren't touring the camping spot. We were in another world in our heads. I imagine we looked pretty outfitted as we roamed around, despite being so tiny. Between the 9 of us, the oldest was probably 8 years old. It was imagination at its finest, and our parents would only fan the flames. They'd periodically come over the walkie-talkie, pretending to be base camp or the rescue chopper, whatever fit the game that we were playing. I don't remember what game was that day, but we hadn't made contact with the parents in quite a while. We'd actually gone a little further than normal. We're feeling cheeky when the walkie-talkie started to crackle. We all gathered around and waited for the message. Slowly, someone began speaking to us through the speaker, writhed in static. It was a man's voice. He said that he was Santa, and he was trying to find us to give us our presents. We asked him where he was and how we could find him. We're all bug-eyed, staring at the radio between us. It made sense to our little brains. Of course, Santa was on across the radio waves. He traveled the whole world. He needed comm links to make a journey like that. I'm out here and I know I'm close to you, he said. I can hear all of you not far off. Why don't you just keep going north until you see me? We looked down at our equipment. Despite our lack of outdoor skills, we actually had the compass and we knew which way that was. Again, this was the furthest out we'd ever been, so we decided to make contact with the grown-ups first. Surely, they'd want to come along and meet Santa too. Thinking back, I wonder if we collectively kind of knew this was too good to be true. Either way, we were excited. We all ran back to our campsite, screaming that we just made contact with Santa. The parents laughed at us as we crowded back into the camp, but we didn't let up. We were adamant that Santa had just come over the walkie-talkie. He wanted us to come and find him. Some of the parents settled us down and questioned us directly and specifically. Who contacted who over the radio? What exactly did he say? Did you tell him where you're staying? Your name? Where you live? How long did he talk to you for? They went on, and we excitedly, almost annoyed, answered all the questions. Didn't they understand? Santa Claus was waiting somewhere, just through the scrub brush. They told us what was really going on. That wasn't Santa. It was some outback dwelling weirdo who was probably within a mile or two. We only partly understood what they were saying. It was nuanced because they had to keep the illusion of Santa being real in place, while still explaining that the voice we heard was a dangerous stranger who wanted to lure us into the wilderness. The walkie-talkie was taken off of us, and we weren't allowed to go anywhere for the rest of that trip. We were all pretty devastated at the time, but I understand the seriousness of it and the creepiness of it now looking back as an adult. I remember overhearing them talk about it later that night. They honestly didn't know what to make of all of it. It could have been another camper just having some honest fun with some kids over the radio. The reality was, they didn't know and couldn't risk finding that out. We changed camping locations after that trip for obvious reasons. What really shook them up was that they didn't even hear the guy. We were all tagged to do the same frequency. So his voice came out over our speaker, it should have come out over the adult speaker too, but it didn't. Somehow that guy spoke directly to us, and only us, and invited us to come find out why.
It is very early on Christmas morning. Pepper and her family are staying at Granny and Grandpa Pig's house.
I want to add a furniture mod, but I don't know the special one. I'm going to add the cheap one.
I've spent countless hours inside the deep woods. I've seen a lot of weird, semi-spooky stuff, but it usually has a pretty round and reasoned truth behind it. I've heard even stranger stuff I thought people just made up for clout. I don't entertain a lot of what I would consider nonsense. This is the only time, the only few seconds, that goes down as truly inexplicable for me. I distance hike when I can. Sometimes this means getting up early or staying out late to get as many miles in as possible. It's a strenuous hobby that not everybody understands, but those that do get the commitment. Get to see views and terrain not many do. Get to breathe air untouched by industry. Get to swim in waters people aren't constantly visiting.
What the fuck is going
It
on
also
with this
stands
shit,
as some of
bro?
the best full-body exercise a person can do. Did I mention it's therapeutic? But I digress. Sometimes, though, walking in the pitch dark with a low light headlamp,
Oh, I see something.
hands-free just in case something comes barreling out of the darkness trying to rip my face off. I don't believe in the paranormal, but bears and cougars are real-life predators. On deep hikes, creatures like these are much nearer to us than we know. In the dark with a headlamp, every odd scratch or rustle in the underbrush feels like certain death. It's the only part of distance hiking that makes me anxious, but still, it's part of the hobby. I grew up in the woods of this area. I've slept under canopy of stars more nights than I can count. I've trekked thousands of miles in trail, riverbank, lakeshore, ridge, bottoms, bogs, and creeks. I've hunted the game. I'm establishing this because it's important you understand. I've heard, seen, and smelt all about this region that it has to offer in way of wilderness. That woodland was my house, and I knew every room and railing. My scariest experience happened at about 4:30 in the morning. It was a late spring in the same woodland, so the first morning light wouldn't be visible in the treetops for another 30 to 45 minutes. Another hour past that until sunrise. I was on mile 5, barely breaking a sweat. I'm waiting to hit caffeine so I don't burn out too early in my journey. There's a chill blanketing the whole forest. That wet, almost misty kind of spring morning. Definitely common for the area that I'm in. I'm in a low bottom that's wedged between two steep ridges. The trail I'm on was narrow, muddy, and completely hemmed by a thick underbrush, young maple, and old oak growth. I'm focused on the small light from my headlamp, just one step after the other, zoned out. Exercise is the goal when it's dark, as there definitely isn't anything to look at. Just stay focused and make sure I don't blow out a knee or get bit by something. Then, I hear a loud crack. I froze solid. It was a crazy sound to hear 5-6 miles into the wilderness in the still ripening dawn. It was something I, for the first time in a long time, have never heard before. This is the part I have trouble describing. 4:30 a.m. in the springtime means I'm the only thing making noise. No birds chirping, nothing. Dead quiet. Even the nocturnal animals are getting ready to go to sleep, making for a weird overlap out there where nothing stirs at all. It's a supreme silence, and usually when hunters tend to do their stalking, it's the best time to get into position when everything is resting before sunrise. Mid-step, I froze. When fight or flight kicks in, you have these immediate instinct thoughts. The thought that instantly flashed in my mind as soon as I stood there balancing myself into silence was, if I hear that again, I'm turning around.
I'm gonna do something
Going all
different,
the way
y'all.
back I came in a hurry. That was the only logical option out there. Why? Because that sound was not a branch breaking. It wasn't deadfall. It wasn't a widow moving. I was damn sure that I heard something intentional. Hearing it twice, well, that meant get out of here. That meant something territorial to me. Like like a snake shaking its rattle, letting you know it's time to fuck off. I wasn't in a position to try and route myself around something that didn't want me out there. I had a headlamp strapped to my head that gave my position to whoever was out there. To describe it as best I can, it sounded like a decent-sized wooden stick being violently whacked against a small tree. More a fungo-sized bat stick than a baseball bat. The distinction in my head being that this sound was a crack, not a thud or a thump, and I've described it as explosive in the past because it was so sudden and so terribly loud. I had the sense that there was about 50 yards directly in front of me. Loud, clear. Now as I stood there, completely spooked, I realized the soon-to-be worst part of my situation. I knew where the sound came from. I knew where the trail went. In about 30 yards, I was going to come to a 180-degree turn and start up the ridge going away from the creek. This meant, as soon as I got the courage to move toward that noise, I was going to have to turn my back to it to get up that ridge. This made me very nervous. My head is somewhere between a meth fiend murderer and some kind of animal pulling my guts out of my ass. Minutes pass. I just breathe my foggy breath into my glasses and listen. Nothing. Dead quiet. I've got 20 to 30 minutes until first light. I crank up the headlamp and start to slowly creep the 180 turn. When you wear a headlamp in the woods at night, every tree branch in front of you casts a big black moving shadow on the trail. It didn't help. In fact, it made me hesitate with each step because I keep thinking there was something lurking just before me. Again, I'm just trying to get through until the sun comes up and levels the playing field. I get to the turn and quickly make the bend. Moving pretty fast at this point, trying to be quiet still. Taking tiny, shallow breaths so I can listen while humping it up the trail. It is a delicate thing to try to carry a substantial amount of hiking gear while trying to not make any sounds. For a lot of people, it's impossible, but it can be done. You find yourself out there enough. Some situations demand it. That's when I smell it. I stop in my tracks and take it in. A stench hits me that I cannot describe. I just imagine wet, rotten death. I've actually worked scenes where humans have expired in a past life as a firefighter. This was like days of old decomposition, but it just smelled strange, unpleasantable. And being so far removed from civilization, it really limited the options. There wasn't even trash or sewage out here. It wasn't a burn pit. I kept walking fast. By the time I made it to the top of that ridge, I was huffing. And the first light was showing. I didn't stop moving until full light was out, and the birds were now chirping. Once the sun was up, I no longer cared about being quiet. Whatever was out there, it seemed the whole time. It chose to leave me alone. I've heard it all in the woods. I've smelled it all. And I'm telling you, I don't know what the hell that was. Deadfall, and especially leaf-bound branches, make a lot of noise on the way down. I've heard it many, many times. I don't know. I kept on. I finished my hike that day. Never encountered anything that forced me to turn around. It's just a weird time in a weird place when I heard that weird noise. And to this day, nothing like that has ever happened in that area again. I was somewhere in the middle of the White Mountains in the summer when I walked into what looked like a scene from a horror movie. I was alone, roughly 8 miles from the nearest recreational area. I like to hike off trail and see the sights, discover little ponds and stuff like that. On this day, I discovered a campsite where something very, very bad had taken place. A person with zero hiking, camping, or any other experience had gotten themselves into trouble, big trouble. It was around 7 a.m. when I found the campsite. The place is absolutely annihilated, like a tornado touchdown. Picked up the whole place and then slammed it back down. Trash everywhere, clothes shredded to ribbons. The tent,
I forgot the furniture
chunky
mod.
strips of polyester. It smelled like death and
Help
stunk,
me here a little
like
bit
rotten
better at
human
this.
waste throughout the whole area. The first thing that hit me was the eerie stillness, until I noticed the desperate-looking human figure, covered in blood, whimpering quietly under a tree by the tent. They were riddled with open wounds of varying severity. I could see flesh and meat, hanging out of some of the deeper lacerations. They weren't festering, but they weren't pouring blood either. Whatever happened had taken place a while ago. The person had gone to the bathroom all over themselves. The smell in the air was starting to come together. This person had been lying there for a long time. I put my bag down, grabbed my kit, and went over to the person. They looked like they just lost a knife fight with a four-armed man. Deep slashes from one shoulder to hip, single punctures up and down his back, and his hands and forearms full of what looked like to be defensive cuts. I patched him up the best I could, gave him water, checked my map, and hightailed it to the closest road. This was well before cell phones were super prevalent and barely worked inside those mountains. Thankfully, there was a road very close by, kinda, less than 2 miles. But when you're walking through the brush, it isn't exactly speedy. I busted through as quick as I could while trying to piece it all together. I wish I'd examined the campsite a little better. Was he out there alone? Did he have a disagreement with someone while he was camping and it turned fatal? Did some stranger do this? I didn't know what to think. Animals are always a possibility, but why didn't they finish the job? I got to the road and didn't know which way to go. There wasn't any community to walk to. Simply looking for other people to get help. I started going north, and fortunately, I was able to flag some
A lot of ores, stuff like that, but no, for now.
I explained what I came upon as best I could, and I must have done a good job because their faces lost more and more color the longer I talked. They agreed to help and took off down the road. They said they'd get authorities and lead them back to this exact spot that I met them on the road. It's the quickest way to meet back up again. The whole rescue operation was like a baton race because everyone had the location of the next person, but no one single person actually knew the entire route. The guys in the Jeep knew how to get to town, and they would know how to get back to me, and I would lead them to the bloodbath. There was only one thing to do. I waited for assistance to arrive. It took them about an hour until they came rumbling up the mountain, and I led them to the still unidentified individual. He was not very conversant when I helped him out. I was actually pretty sure he'd be dead before we arrived. I mean, sitting there for an hour, it's not hard to arrive at some grim conclusions. That guy was clearly close to death. Even if we got there in time, infection could take him out at any point after retrieval. It took another hour to get the emergency responders back into the canyon. I assisted them in bringing him out. Once we got him on the stretcher, I could see his wounds were far worse than I'd realized. Every inch of him was crushed and sliced up in every direction. Fat and muscle hung out of him and off the stretcher during those steep declines. The guy was in and out of consciousness the whole time, and rightfully so. I couldn't imagine the pain this guy endured for days on end. We huffed him up the last ridge, loaded him into the response vehicle. The sheriff and forest rangers asked if I wanted to live back. So I took them up on their offer, headed back into town, and got myself cleaned up. The whole day turned into be much more than just a distance hike, but a life or death mission for a stranger I didn't know.
What's that
Cleaning
again,
up
brother?
and getting myself situated at their station, I went on my way, leaving them my number to call me and let me know what was up with the person that we helped out. A buddy of mine came and picked me up, then gave me a lift out to the trailhead where I'd left my truck. I told him the details as we drove.
I'm missing 3. I put 3 down.
We made it. I collected my rig and made the trip back home. I got home from work 3 days later. There was a message on my machine. It was the sheriff's department. The story was, the guy I found decided to go camping one day and heard that he had to keep his food hung from a tree to keep bears away.
That's for
He did
food.
that, but he put it almost directly over his tent. Not high enough. The night before I happened upon that site, a bear had used the tent and its occupant in an attempt to climb the tree to get the food. The guy had woken up to 4 black bear paws sinking into his body, shifting to reach up. Dude survived and swore to the hospital staff that he was moving to the city and never going into the woods, ever again. This happened to me and some friends of mine in Sydney, Australia. When we wanted
What's up, bro?
buy a case of beer or a bottle of spirit and hike about 4 kilometers into
Hunter,
the bush.
I'm by Hunter.
To drink
You
without
say,
worrying
hey,
about
what's
getting
up,
in trouble.
man?
We would pass out in a sleeping bag under the stars in the summer. We just fine. This is the quintessential outback shenanigans. Dirt dwelling with a bottle of alcohol and your best asshole friends around you. At the end of the day, though, it's harmless. We aren't trying to get up into any trouble, cause damage, or even bother anybody. It's a rite of passage, how we grow up into who we're supposed to be. I'm sure your country and culture has a similar pastime for the youth.
Hello?
What happened to us, though, is a bit more out of the ordinary. So one afternoon, my friends decided it's a camping night and head off with beer to the usual spot we'd use. We all just collectively agreed
Yeah,
and
Mike, bro.
piled into the utes for the journey. It was impromptu, really no planning, and that means none of us checked the weather. This was a big no-no, as we really knew better, and had gotten into hairy situations before because of storms and the like. And of course, the forecast was
Well, you could join up if you want, just don't grief. This is like a survival SMP world. We have 6 people playing this server, so you could join up if you want, just don't grief. You could bring your house. We're gonna have currencies, all that, but yeah.
And honestly, we're really good at it. Too good. None of us noticed the buildup above us. A slight rumbling in the distance. We did a final round of shots and passed out before we even caught a warning. As I explained, the camping we did was extremely rough. We had a little fire pit, sleeping bags, and maybe a couple of chairs and a portable speaker. And absolutely no coverage. No trees, no tarps, no canvas, no tent. There's nothing to use as a shelter. This is bush camping.
Why you left, Hunter?
Got loose and catch
You lagged out.
In the middle of the night, all 5 of us drunk teenagers left the campsite to shelter.
Oh, and we got a rare panda, a brown one. My friend found a rare brown panda, so we got one of them.
The panic was overwhelming, and soon the lightning and thunder had us all worked up and frothing at the mouth. It's scary to be caught out in extreme, unexpected weather. There's literally nowhere to go. I don't know why, but it reminded me of drowning or something. Just being totally out of control of the situation, breathless and trying to escape. The caves sit up high, overlooking a large fork in the Hawkesbury River. We had a rough idea of where they were, but the storm had us completely disoriented. A lightning flash would illuminate the ridgeline and have us all shuffling. Another flash, and we'd look up to see how somehow we ran in the wrong direction. It was like a f***ed up game of cat and mouse, except this game felt fatal. We made it though.
Let me exit my game and go back on it. Hold on.
Turned to mud beneath us, sucking off our shoes and socks. The rocks gave way at every turn and let us fall on our asses. We didn't care. We scrambled up the face of the hill and found our way into the mouth of the system. We laid there in a pile for a while, catching our breath. We'd all flinch every time the lightning flashed or the thunder barked.
What's up, man?
We eventually started to laugh, harder than we ever have.
Hey, how you doing, man? How you doing, viewers?
And now it didn't matter.
My friend couldn't join, trying to figure out what's going on
A couple of us set to
in
dig
my area.
We had a couple of lighters amongst us, and there was random scrub brush along the cave floor. We took turns scraping the dry, cracked earth with stones.
The fuck is